manufacturing venture, there was a need for a professional organization. We talked to the state IC group and they said, let's get into join hands and set up a company for engineering products marketing. Because oil and gas was developing. The welding industry, there were very, very few players in the welding industry. People were not giving solutions. So we came up in terms of our technical expertise and marketing know-how. We set up another company which is called Gulf, especially engineering products marketing organization, mainly to see welding, mechanical engineering supplies, concentrating on the oil and gas projects. In the 1970s, you would see Qataris would be just trading. I mean, you buy from X, Y, Z and trade. There was not a single company who was able to suggest the right electrode for the right application. You can imagine that if you're working with chrome-only steel in the fertilizer company, you cannot use a carbon steel. If you use a carbon steel, you're going to waste about $5 million. But if you use the right electrode, you're going to save at least $5 million. So that was the solution we brought to the table. Expertise and techno-commercial marketing. And slowly the construction industry also started. And over the period of time, because Qatar is small, we have to diversify. We can't just stick with welding. We started welding, construction industry, power tools, gaskets. We also started some manufacturing gaskets for the oil and gas industry. Manufacturing thick torch assemblies, again for the welding industry. These are some of the franchises that we hold currently. I have 84 slides. I'm trying to be as fast as possible, so there is no rush. We celebrated our 25 years in 2005, and that was a real milestone for us and the company. These are some of the brand leaders whom we work with, mainly in the field of oil and gas. We also have a consumer division, which we started in 1993. And we now represent 3 major brands from India. One is Voltas, air conditioners, VIP luggage, and Carlton, which is also bought over by VIP in 2004. Our success has been based on 3 approaches. Technical expertise, a dedicated technical team which provides solutions. Very, very important to stock. Because without stock, you don't sell. And extremely good service. We work 24/7. These are some of the franchises. I'll run through them very fast because there are some other interesting slides coming through. And we have some time and panel discussions as well. With most of these franchises, we hold more than 40% market share in the Qatari market. In 1993, we started the consumer branch, basically with the idea of growing demand in the air conditioners. We thought it's an idea to get into the air conditioning market, which is currently growing at 12% per annum. We had the franchise of Delci Air Conditioners, which is a joint venture operation between Carrier and Jufari in Saudi Arabia. And the last 3 years we moved to Voltas, which is a manufacturing unit from India. So after having the air conditioners, we had the opportunity to get into the ever-growing demand for luggage. And we talked to VIP Asia as #1 manufacturer, India's largest, and they were very keen to enter the Qatar market. I'm very pleased to tell you that we have 33% market share for VIP luggage in Qatar. And with the Asian Games coming in Doha in 2006, it's indeed an honor that Gulf has been chosen to be the official luggage supplier in the DEGOC, which is the Doha Asian Games Organizing Committee. I think one very important fact is VAT itself as a company has been committed to the Qatar market. I think this is very, very fundamental. Unless Indian companies show commitment to the export market, it's very, very difficult to get success there. And again, Indian companies going global. VAT bought over car to travel goods in UK at $20 million in 2004. And they instantly increased their market share internally through the reach of international distributors. This is our statement from the DEGOC. We already discussed this. We've been in the Qatari market, and I think we are providing solutions. That's been one of the key factors for strength. And we built up a lot of references. In fact, over the last 27 years, we've catered to 95% of all EPC projects which are taking place in Qatar. And we built a reference for ourselves. We do value-added services. We are able to manufacture a lot of products, especially to reduce downtime in the industry. One of them is gaskets. You know, it's spiral-wound gaskets, which are sealants. They act as sealing solutions. And we have a 24/7 facility that we can manufacture the gasket and supply it to the industry within 20 minutes. Otherwise, it would take at least about 3 days even to get my DHL from the world's any manufacturer from the world. This is another idea which we introduced, is the Express Mobile Sales and Service Center. It's mobile showroom as well as a service center. It goes to various project sites, EPC sites, and delivers the goods and services there. I think I have to go back to this one, and I need your help. It's running, it's really the Rajdhani office, but spare me for a while, go back to this slide, this is important. What is the reason for success? I call it the 3 C's. We had the courage to venture into new market. We had the conviction of the venture. It was a new market, but we were convinced that our idea would sell. And we were committed to be there, not only in the initial stage of the project, but to see it through and to make sure it makes profits year after year. The 5 P's. I think it's very, very important. A new country, a new place, the size and the stage of development. When we entered to just growing, oil price was $12. In 1997 it came to $8. Today it's $72. The whole country is growing. There's going to be 204 billion Qatari worth of investment. So we've grown with the trends in the local market. We've grown, given inputs, and grown together. Policies for foreign investment are very, very important. Qatar invites foreign participation. Of course, it has to be in terms of 51-49, there has to be equity, but it could also be 70-30. And soon there will be special export zones, special industrial zones, which give 100% ownership to Indian companies, or even expats trying to do work. People culture, you've got to get into the people, you've got to integrate yourself into the culture of the people, get to know the psyche of the locals. It's very, very important. The key ingredients has been definitely technical inputs. We have to be technical. We have to add value in terms of technical and commercial expertise. Business integrity. Most Arabs, Qataris, or others, it's running fast. That's why I yeah. But it's running fast. I mean, let me take you this slide, this one. I think its business integrity is extremely important, especially with a lot of Arabs. Very, very important. The trust they have to build with your partnership. I think this is one of the key ingredients for success and continued success. Because once that trust is built, I think that sows the seeds for long-term growth. And financial discipline, which we as Indian partners have to generate, because the Qataris, they want to see only dividends. But it's our role as Indian entrepreneurs to make sure the financial discipline is there for investment in the future. I do have a few slides, but they are related to Indian businesses in Qatar and what sort of business they are. But I think as what we are trying to do is promote brand India. I think generally India is known for IT and beauty. I think Indian entrepreneurs have added one more T to this remote I would call it. I think reliability. I think that is the key factor. IT, beauty and reliability. I think my station has come, Mr. Dinesh. I've got 2 more bogies. You can take it to panel. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ganesh. Frankly speaking, after this presentation, I felt they do everything. So the moral of the story is, if you can't beat them, join them. I will, certainly. Now we take an hour-and-a-half flight, and I have pleasure in inviting Mr. Ram Punjabi, the President Director of PT Tripa Multivision Plus from Jakarta, who is here. One special thing I want to say about him, entertainment has become a big business. And he is the one who realized it long back. And he has made entertainment enter your houses. Mr. Ram Punjabi. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinesh. I must say thank you to my very recent friend, Mr. George O'Brien, for selecting me from 230 million people who live in Indonesia. I'm very fortunate to share my experiences from you, and I will be more fortunate that I will learn more from all of you who have come as speakers and my friends from Singapore, India and Malaysia. To my Singapore friends, good morning. To my Indian friends, namaste, and to my Malaysian friends, selamat pagi. When I introduce myself to anybody new to me, I say I'm Ram Punjabi and I represent the Indonesian film industry. Oh, the first word comes, oh, the man with the beauty. All surrounding me are beauties, glamour, but little do people know that how much difficult work it is. I don't deal with machines, I deal with human feelings. Every new person who joins my company, I have to understand him first. What he looks like, what he needs, what he likes, what she does. Okay, I have to meet the newcomers every day. I produced 110 movie titles under the Indonesian industry, under the leadership of Suharto, made it difficult for us. It was cronies who were benefiting, but my only understanding to the life was have patience. My relationship with India goes long back. My parents came to Indonesia in early 30s. I'm second generation, my brother is fourth generation. When I started the television industry, there was not a cameraman available in Indonesia. There was not even one camera available in Indonesia. My friends, they had the TV station and I was the software guy. They said, we don't care, you bring the people here, we want Indonesian product. So what did I do? I went to the nearest country which had technology and which had people, that was India. 75% of my industry were backed by the Indian technicians, the Indian talent, the writers, the directors. Okay, but the brain behind it was Indonesians. That also had an Indian brain, has an Indian blood, that's me. I have completed 110 titles of movies and I stopped. Then I produced 10,000 hours of television programs. I produce 2,000 hours every year. Our market is Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia and Brunei. This year we have joined hands with Astro Malaysia. We produce for them to be shown simultaneously in 3 countries, and in next year it will be in Singapore. So we've been at one time and we show in Indonesia. Singapore will be next year, Malaysia and Brunei. Some people say that my industry is dark industry because everything is done in dark. We process the movie in dark, we show the movie in dark. But what do we need? What do we need? We need glamour, we need brightness, we need ideas. When a journalist makes a report, his paper is sold more when he is accurate and precise. But if I go for accuracy and the reality of the life, nobody watches me. I have to give them dreams. I have to give them hopes. I have a big conflict going on with my press in Indonesia. They say that I'm corrupting the mind of the Indonesian people because I sell them dreams. I tell them no, I don't sell them dreams. I sell them hopes. Because every Indonesian, if you will see, they live on hopes. Indonesia has 230 million people, okay? But how many are thriving on a luxury? 90% of the Indonesians are poor, but they have hopes, and I have created that hopes in them. I will keep creating that, and I will do whatever I can do for our industry and for the region. How did it start? At the age of 8, I used to sneak it into the theaters. What was my strength? My talk with the usher. He would let me in without getting any money, but I was also greedy. I would not sit in the third class seats which are used to be available because those had different type of ticket prices. Going free and still I would go to the highest price. And I was thrown out many times of the day. The Nagin I watched for 50 times. Every day. I used to go to school, not in the morning like every kid would do. My nationality was still Indian then. In 1976 I acquired my nationality, Indonesian citizenship. I did not know where to go to school. So what you see me, I'm a self-made man. Okay, I had private school, but I knew that I am not going to be a textile merchant. Neither will I be a dream merchant, but I will be a person who will sell hopes to people. 10,000 hours of library is not a small amount of number that we have produced. We market our movies in all the international markets. That is MidCom, MidTV, AFM, which is next week in America. We are getting a lot of inquiries because Asian movies have really developed quite rapidly in this recent 5 years. Indonesia is a beautiful country. I need people like yourself to be part of my industry. I invite you to Indonesia to be part of my business. I was very much taken aback, abashed, when I saw what Mr. Ganesh is doing in Qatar. I had never imagined that our Indian fellow friends who are doing all these things and making the name of the Indian brighter every day. I wish that you come to Indonesia and also teach us how to get rid of our sewerage problems. Half an hour of rain, the whole city floods, but I don't see the negative part. I don't depend on my government. I don't ask them what you can do for them, for me, or for the industry. I tell them what you want me to do for this industry. Every year we have, Indonesia is the founder member of Asia Pacific Film Festival, and I hate that organization. The government does not support us because I know they have to feed the poor people. How can they feed the industry people, whom they call is a glamorous industry? So I need you. I need all of you to expand your businesses in Indonesia, and believe me, okay, film industry is the best industry in the world. I will introduce you to all my people, all my laws, all my regulations which are available in Indonesia. Let's join hands as the summit is expecting from us. Join hands and prosper together. Welcome to Indonesia, and I will welcome you with my open heart. Thank you very much for allowing me.
Thank you, Mr. Ram Punjabi. It was very nice to see Blackness traveling from Sydney to Indonesia very soon. This was great, Mr. Punjabi. It was very nice to hear your absolutely frank remarks about things. And I believe we should all learn to be a little frank instead of diplomatic. And I like that. My personal congratulations to you for making this presentation. And we move on now to our immediate neighbor, Malaysia. Dr. Shivamurthy Shanmugan, Advisor, Malaysian Indian Business Association, called MIBA. MIBA, is it? Mr. Shivamurthy from Malaysia.
Thank you, Chairman. A very good morning to you, distinguished speakers of the panel, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great honor today to be here. And I'm very grateful to the organizing committee, PT, in particular, Mr. George Abraham. I was barely given 48 hours to prepare this discussion on Indian diaspora Malaysian experience. However, I am going to approach the topic from the macro level, not micro. I'm not going to focus my attention on a company experience as far as globalization is concerned, but I'm moving a little bit at macro level. Now, the diaspora has emerged as one of the leading and largest diaspora in the world, having grown from a scattered, marginalized, self-containing, isolated overseas community to assume leadership of digital and literary world. Now, India. The emergence of India has offers vast opportunities for the new and young entrepreneurs. The vast market of 1.06 billion offers a massive market for all the PIOs throughout the world. And I hope, it's a sincere hope, that all the chambers of commerce, business associations, and government-to-government affiliations will open doors to all these young entrepreneurs, nurturing businessmen, to have a peep into the small window of the Indian economic world. Now you must not forget, 2050, India will be the third largest economy. And there is so much to offer with India. Now, it is today, 45 years from now, all of us put our heads together, we can change the entire world business order. What I'm trying to say is, another world is possible. Now, this as a re-intro, now move on to the well, they have a funny system.
Move a little faster.
Good. Oh. Now how do I go back? Okay. Thank you. I'm not IT literate. I have a very simple reason for that. I delegate the responsibilities to my IT specialist in my firm. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'll move on from here. Now, I'll give you a little backdrop to the economic climate in Malaysia, and it's very unique phenomena in Malaysia. Now, we have three major communities: the Chinese, the Malays and the Indians. And the Indians form the smallest portion, about 7.5%. Now, of course, in 1957, we were about 10%, now we have declined. Similarly, the Chinese have also declined from 35% to 25%. The Malays are the dominating force in the Malaysian climate. Now, this is a very interesting interplay among the three communities in terms of share of the economic pie in Malaysia. Now, to give you a little backdrop on the various economic plans that have come about. Now, to start with, Vision 2020 was started or launched by the former Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir, where he hoped to create a progressive, prosperous, competitive, dynamic, robust and resilient economy. Now perhaps Dr. Mahathir had this vision that some 10-20 years from 1991, the entire world will be globalized, all trade walls will be broken, there will be movement of goods and services in the entire world. In other words, he was looking at a global village. In 2006, our current Prime Minister launched the 9th Malaysia Plan, which focuses on competitiveness, higher productivity, research and development, and knowledge-based economy, which is a further reinforcement to prepare our business community into the superhighway and the globalized world. Now let's look at the social economic landscape in the country. Now, primary aim of the 9th Malaysia Plan is to meet the challenges of globalization. So, in order to cope up with this globalization, the government has undertaken various measures through better delivery system, fast-track approval, reducing the legislative framework, and enhancing and become pro-business friendly. As far as the Indian commercial and industrial community is concerned, we have to address the various limitations of the Indian community. As I told you, now one of the single most important factor is we are a minority group, 7.5% of the population. As I told you, in 1957 we were 10% and we have declined since then to 7.5. In 1957 we enjoyed 1% equity in the entire economic case. As of now, we are enjoying 1.5, which is an insignificant rise in the economy. We often referred and, well, can I say, ignored by the government policy in the past, hidden from the mainstream Malaysian activity. Indians are often referred to as Malaysia's forgotten people, unfortunately. All this is due to the major interplay of the power of politics. Fruits of economic development have not percolated to the Indian community, and this is the sad part. However, we still manage to survive. We have been a minority community. It did not evoke the jealousy or the hatred of the indigenous community as they are small in number. Politically, we do not have much clout, and economically, most of them belong to the poorest strata of the society. Now, Malaysian Indians, the components again is very structured. Some 80% are South Indians, the balance 20% are North Indians and others. Now, the economic landscape in Malaysia is somewhat what I refer to as not a level playing field for the three communities. There are cultural restrictions, ethnic considerations. The Indians suffer from a major lack of capability, technical know-how, and the regulatory framework has been a major hurdle to the progress of the Indian community through their various quota systems, restricted license approval, and permits. Now the Indians decided that they are not going to expand the government, so they moved on. Now we have seen in the last 10-15 years some of the major companies coming out in a big way. Some have been listed in the Malaysian Kuala Lumpur Stock Exchange, and they have moved major patterns of economic activities throughout the world. Now, how did we get into this globalization scenario? Now, we identified our strength. Our strength is multi-ethnic staff to exploit opportunities. Now, the Indo-Malaysia bilateral trade increased from US 5 billion in 2005 to US 6.5 billion in 2006. Now, we cannot concentrate on India as such. Our trade has spread to various Asian countries. Now, how is this achieved? Through this strong multi-ethnic top management group. Indian companies has actually employed top managers from the Chinese community and the Malay community to run their companies. That was one of the major ingredients in some of the most successful Indian companies in Malaysia. Now I'll go into the details of some of the companies that have done well. Now, Indians generally are hardworking, trustworthy, well, sometimes compliant, the second part. The cultural affinities for networking relationship and enhance their presence in Malaysia. With a Muslim nation, this has opened doors to Southwest Asia, Middle East, in respect of the halal product sector. Now, the Islamic factor has played an important role in the last 5 years, and the market for halal food has grown. Now, primary aim as far as the Indian businesses is concerned, we want to tap the 70 million in Thailand, 200 million in Indonesia, and 500 million in ASEAN. And for that, we are prepared because of our ethnic, mixed ethnic group in Malaysia. Now, how did these Malaysian companies survive under the surge of globalization? Various strategies were implemented. One of those major considerations is acquisition. Now, acquisition has been an important strategy for most of the Malaysian companies. They went to other countries and acquired the companies. In order to give an example, we have Maxis. Maxis is actually owned and controlled by Anand Krishnan. If you take a copy of the company's report, his name will never be mentioned there, but he is the main person behind Maxis and another big group of companies called Kadung PLC. It is capitalized and their cash reserves to the tune of $10 billion. It's a very big company, very successful, and Anand Krishnan is the third richest man in Malaysia. We have a member of the Indian community who is the third richest in Malaysia. If you go to Kuala Lumpur, the landmark building, Twin Towers, is part of Kadung PLC. It belongs to an Indian. Now, how did Maxis extend its presence to overseas shores? It is through acquisition. In Indonesia, it bought into PT Nitranda. In India, it bought into a cellular company. The name of the cellular company is SL. Bought into SL, 74 stake in SL, and with has operations in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Orissa, Assam, and is expected to serve something like 3.8 million subscribers. Now, this is one of those ways where you can move. Now, what made Maxis go there? They were cash rich, and they were able to move on into offshore through acquisition. The next major strategy is strategic alliance. Kumpulan Barkat is a very good example. It's Indian Muslim owned. It has 120 product lines and its presence in whole of Asia and other parts of the world. It has strategic alliance with Wiko manufacturer in India, MTR in India, Hex and Sandvik in Denmark. And its turnover runs to the hundreds of millions and has done very well, and it's an Indian-based company. Another good example of Indian spreading its wings beyond our Malaysian shore. Third category, diversification, moved into halal sector. Muslim accounts for 16% of the US 100 million a year in US kosher market. That's a big market to tap on. The Baba products, which is massive range of mixed flour and chili powder, has moved to various parts in the Middle East, China, Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. Another important element of their survival strategies is Indian companies have tied up with Malay partners and Chinese partners, and this has given them chance to go into markets which is basically Chinese. They have moved into China, Vietnam, and Laos. Okay. Lastly, of course, there are a group of companies in Malaysia which has been franchising the operations overseas, both ranging from food-based, from nasi padai in Malaysia to nasi padai to India. A good example is the Pelita Samudra Group, which has done franchising. Of course, there are other Malaysian companies like Mary Brown, which has gone in a big way. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what is the future for the Indians in Malaysia and throughout the world? Well, to appreciate this problem, as I said, there are structural problems for the Indians in Malaysia. We need to look forward to help all members of the PIL group throughout Asia and the world where they are present. And for that, I'm sure we are looking at a massive market of 1 million to tap from. It's important that various business associations and government-to-government relationship will document all these linkages with the Indian companies so that the local Indians in this part of the world can tap the expertise. Entrepreneurship in technology sector is a very important sector because we have shown of strength, product and service acceptance. Now, let's move on to Malaysia, which produces quality electrical products with the booming market in India. I'm sure I see a phenomenal growth in terms of consumer market. The other sector to look into is tourism. From 250,000 arrivals in 2005 in Malaysia has increased to 450,000 in 2006. So there is a great potential in tourism. I was told that to get a scuba diving license in any part of the world is cheapest in Malaysia. Internationally recognized scuba diving. And we have major destinations for scuba diving. You must have heard of Sipadan Island, which is one of the best in the world. Now these are some of the areas that can be tapped by Indians in other countries. Tie with our locals, and I'm sure we can build a major bridge and enrich and prosper the community. Again, a convention like this, fine. In India, they are doing a lot of conventions. They fly from Chennai to Delhi to hold a convention. Now I can assure you, if you have conventions in Malaysia, fly from Chennai to Kuala Lumpur, it will be very much cheaper and you can enjoy a completely new environment, good weather, and also spice Indian cuisine. That's a beautiful part of cosmopolitan Malaysia, which is truly Asia. Just like to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, just remember, today I'm sure Dr. Baran and all the members who have common thinking will remember that another world is possible. Right now, today, work on it, you can change the world economic order. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have to thank Dr. Shivamurthy for a brilliant exposure on Malaysia. And now we go to the sunny Mauritius. Mauritius has been my favorite for a long time because when you go to Mauritius, you rarely think of work, but pleasure. But since so much money is going into Mauritius because it opens out to the Western world, we need solicitors. And we have Mr. Shiv Kumaran Mardebuttu. I'm pronouncing your name correctly, I hope. Mr. Shiv Kumaran, the founding partner of Mardebuttu Solicitors of Port Louis, Mauritius, to address us. And before he comes in, be prepared for a wonderful speech on that lovely island of Mauritius. But apart from it, let us hope that he invites us all to Mauritius.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just say 2 words to thank George Brown and Anne-Marie for the wonderful work to put together this summit. Mauritius, 7 hours from Singapore and Malaysia, 5 hours from India, daily flights, 3 hours from South Africa. Mauritius is a small island, twice the size of Singapore. We're about 1.2 million inhabitants, 50% Indian origin, about 20% African origin, about 15% Chinese origin, and the rest are European origin. Mauritius was, basically we have 3 main periods in Mauritian history. We have Dutch period, the French period, and the British period. At the end of the British period, Mauritius became independent in 1968. Now, Indians started to arrive when slavery was abolished in 1835. Automatically, the British then turned to China and India for indentured laborers. The first batch of Indians arrived soon after 1835, and immediately the sugar industry took off. Mauritius economy, sugar in 4 pillars: sugar industry, textile industry, tourism, and financial services. Sugar, there's nothing to say about the sugar. Textile, Mauritius has specialized now into high-end products. Mauritius provides textile products to Christian Dior, Gucci, Gap, Banana Republic. I mean, Mauritius is quite known now to have got a niche market in luxury textile garments. Tourism, well, we are approaching the 1 million tourists per year, mostly from Europe. We are heavily influenced by France. So French tourists, Italian tourists, South African, English, growing number of Russian tourists. So we have lots of hotels. Indian hotels in Mauritius, Taj hotels and Oberoi. They're all 6 stars and 1,500 euros per night. Mauritius tourism industry is a very expensive. Mauritius is a very expensive tourist destination. We don't have backpackers in Mauritius. We only have very rich tourists that come, and that has proven to be very beneficial for the country. Now, financial services, the last and 4th pillar. You would probably be surprised to know that Mauritius is the largest capital exporter to India, largest foreign currency exporter into India. How did that happen? Well, Mauritius has signed double taxation treaties with India and China and a number of other countries. What does that mean? That means that because of those treaties, there are special tax treatments and special tax concessions given by India and China, for example, to Mauritius. So what has happened is since 1994, most of the American companies, most of the European companies, while going to invest into India and China, instead of going straight from America or Europe to India and China, they go through Mauritius. They incorporate the Mauritian company, so they become Mauritian, and then the Mauritian company goes into India and China. For example, one of the direct advantages is if you become a Mauritian company, you are exempted from capital gains tax. So for example, an American company goes into India, makes a profit, and then sells an investment, there would be capital gains tax from about 25 to 40% that they will have to pay on the capital gains. If that American company went through Mauritius in the first place and created a Mauritian company, India exempts Mauritians from capital gains tax, and therefore that American company makes a huge savings on capital gains. Same thing into China. An American or European company goes into China and invests into China. When the company pays back loans back to Europe or America, there's a withholding tax of 10 to 15%, which you pay to the Chinese government. But if you were a Mauritian company, you are exempted from that 10 to 15%. So to maximize those tax payments, All of these companies go through Mauritius. They've routed their investments through Mauritius, and this is how Mauritius has now become a huge source of foreign currency into India. And large community of Mauritian of Indian origin are very active in the financial services, in the legal and accounting departments. Our firm, it's a family firm. My father and my sister are also lawyers. We're the first firm of foreign lawyers in Mauritius, and also the biggest. We are the advisors to most international banks operating in Mauritius. That ranges from HSBC, Barclays, Standard Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, the biggest French bank, which is GIBS, and also some South African banks, including Investec. We are also the liquidators. We are also the advisors of the liquidators of Enron. You will probably know that Enron collapsed because of their problem in India. The head of Enron had a fight with an Indian mayor where Enron had its biggest contract, and that contract never came to fruition. What happened is Enron, when it signed the contract, had capitalized the contract value into its books and had already distributed the benefits before getting any money from that contract with the Indian town. So when they had the fight, the contract never came to fruition and Enron collapsed. That is the cause which caused, that is the event that caused Enron to collapse. And that contract with that municipality in India was through Enron Mauritius. So Enron Mauritius basically was the company that owned most of Enron's assets. And so a big part of the liquidation of Enron was around Mauritius. We are the advisors to a lot of the multinational petroleum companies operating around the region, Chevron, Texaco, Total, Exxon, Indian Oil. Most of these also have gone through Mauritius into India and China, and so we are very active in this region. Very recently, the government of Mauritius came with a new scheme to attract rich foreigners. That new scheme is called the Integrated Resource Scheme. What it is basically developing luxury Gulf estates around Mauritius. Luxury Gulf estates, as the name tells you, there's an 18-hole signature golf course, and around the golf course you've got about 300 luxury villas, you've got hotel, you've got casino, and basically these villas are purchased by foreigners and they can be rented out, and it's a huge source of investment. There are about 10 IRS projects right now going on in Mauritius, so there's potentially about 3,000 villas. Europeans are pounding on it, so are Russians, and we are brought into Mauritius investors, and we are equity partners in at least 4 of these IRS projects. The first one is called River Club. You are now seeing what the beach club will look like from the sea. This is a picture of the wellness center. This is an example of the Forest Lodge. This is an example of the River Lodge. This is another picture of the wellness center. And I think in about 2 to 3 years, all of those IRS would have come to fruition. And we are, because we've got such an expert knowledge in developing this, and we've already looked at the market, this is something that we want to reproduce around here. We want to reproduce integrated resource schemes in Singapore, in Malaysia, and in any other interesting jurisdictions, even in India for that matter. Now, they usually say that in a lawyer's life, there is a case that affects that lawyer's life. Although I'm 35 years old, there is a case that has affected my life so far, and I know that would be the case that would have changed my life in my whole practice. There is you will see just under Maldives, just right there, there's a group of 65 islands called the Chagos Islands. Now, the main of those 64 islands is called Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia is in the form of a horseshoe. And Diego Garcia is today the most important US military base, right? Now, the interesting thing is, how did America got to Diego Garcia? And this is about my case. In about 1960s, in the heat of the Cold War, America asked Britain, can I have an island in the Indian Ocean? Because I want to have a military base there because it is so close to Russia and we want to know what's going on. So the British told the Americans, well, you know, we have a few islands in the Indian Ocean, go and make your choice, go and pick one. The Americans so went and searched the Indian Ocean and found two islands. The number one island is called the Diaspora Island, and Diego Garcia was only ranked second. Unfortunately, the Americans did not want to go on Diaspora, although it was an ideal site for them, because in Diaspora there was a unique turtle population, and they did not want to disturb the turtle ecosystem. Americans are very pro-environment, pro-ecology, so they didn't want to disturb the turtle. Then they moved on to the next best choice, which is Diego Garcia. Well, in Diego Garcia, unfortunately, there were no turtles. There were just a bunch of black indigenous people. And they insisted to remove the entire indigenous population. And among those black indigenous population were a lot of people of Indian origin, mostly from South India, who've been there for 250 years, 300 years. They were truly indigenous people. In those islands you didn't have a cash economy. They all lived on fishing and hunting. Truly indigenous, like you have in Amazon forest. So the indigenous community life got destroyed because America insisted that Britain evicts them. So the entire Chagosian people were forced out of their islands, and nobody knows about it because there was an agreement between Americans and the British to keep this very secret, because you remember at that time, we're talking about 1968, 1970, at the United Nations, people were asking for independence, people were asking for their rights, and there was an agreement that they were going to remain silent on this, that if they were asked a question, they would say, oh no, these islands, they were always desert islands, there were no people living there. So they would create a fiction. They agreed on paper to create a fiction that these islands contain no people, and the funny thing is, we got those papers from London telling to the Foreign Secretary of the United States, let's create a fiction that there's no people in there. And the American Secretary of State replied back, says, yeah, let's create a fiction, but let's also maintain that fiction all the way. That, create an artificial fiction. So it was secret, it was a fiction, families, there were about 5,000 people. So what do we do with all the domestic animals? All the 1,500 dogs were killed. They were told to bring all the dogs in a hangar, and with Land Rovers and 4x4s, military vehicles. All the dogs, all the 1,500 dogs were put in a big, huge room like that, and the vehicles were allowed to run, and with the exhaust pipes, the 1,500 dogs were killed. So that was in 1971. Animal rights were already present in America and Europe, but nobody knows about it. Families were packed on board of very, very poor and dirty ships that were carrying manure also around the islands. It was absolutely a tragedy that nobody knows. Now, then those people were sent to Mauritius and the Seychelles, and you can imagine indigenous people going into islands where there were cars, there were buses, there were banks. They've never seen cars, they've never seen banks, they've never seen roads, they've never seen money. They were absolutely lost. So hundreds of them committed suicide, hundreds of them died in poverty, died in misery and hunger. Hundreds of them are still about to die of poverty if we don't bring an end to the plight. How did I become involved in this? In 1997, the leader of the Chagossian community came to see me and said, look, I'm tired, we're tired of each time knocking at the door of the US Embassy or the UK Embassy to get some help. We want to bring this matter to court. So I wrote a brief for them, and we went to court in England in 1998. We lodged an application. So basically what we did was we wanted to challenge, because this is British territory, we wanted to challenge the law that prevented them from remaining on these islands. That was the 1971 Immigration Ordinance. We went, and against all odds, we won. On 3rd November 2000, the High Court quashed that law and declared that their eviction was unlawful. Unfortunately, came September 11. September 11, 2001, when we all know what happened. It changed the whole world, and it would also change the fate of the Chagossians. Donald Rumsfeld put a lot of pressure on the Blair government to do whatever it takes to change that ruling. So basically we had a high court ruling allowing my clients to go back on their islands, but they were doing everything they could to curtail that judgment. And what they did in 2004, they went to the Queen. In England you can go to the Queen to create law. So they went to the Queen in June 2004, and the Queen enacted 2 laws, curtailing the judgment and barring them from going back on the islands, basically cancelling the effect of our judgment. Why did they go to the Queen? Because the Queen's decision has always been known to be immune. You never correct the Queen. Well, guess what? We went to court and we applied for the Queen's decision to be reviewed. This has never been done in British history. And on the 11th of May 2006, this year, the High Court in England ruled that the Queen's decisions were repugnant, were unlawful, and quashed the Queen's decisions. That happened for the first time in British history. We're not done because they have appealed. So we are in the middle of preparing for our appeal. It's a very, very difficult struggle. As you can imagine, we are the poorest fighting against the richest, against the strongest. But it's a struggle for justice, and we're really proud to be associated with that. This case has got lots of publicity in America, in England. CNN, Sky News, BBC has all made huge reports on this. It has been subject of films and books. Very, very interesting. We are paid by the legal aid in England to fund the UK litigation, and we also have a class action in America before the Washington DC courts, where we are claiming in excess of $15 billion in damages and prejudice. Some of us in our law team have got our client, and I'm going to finish on that because it's so nice. We had some of our lawyers have acted for the state of Texas against the tobacco company in the year 2000. And when we were retained by George Bush to claim damage from the tobacco company, we had a fee agreement. Unfortunately, when we won the case, Governor Bush, as he then was, refused to pay us the total amount of agreed fee. So we had to go to court and claim the rest of the fee. So today, all the group of lawyers who was involved in this case committed $2 million out of that win to fund the Chagos litigation. And this is how we have our case. Thank you.